court cards, we're just going to reiterate again. Court cards are always about people or archetypes within yourself that you are encountering or trying to integrate or embody in some way. So court cards are always related to different aspects. So discs are always earth or money or the material world. Cups are always emotions, feelings, and how those feelings move. Wands are always energy and how energy moves, and swords are always the mind. Discs and cups are feminine by nature. Wands and swords are masculine by nature. So when you're dealing with cards, you're going to notice that, think of it like this. Does water like fire?
No.
No. So when you're doing a reading, if a water or a disc, if a cup is next to a wand, it's going to make it a little adversarial. It's going to color it in a darker way. Okay, that makes sense? Now, does water or cups like earth, which is discs? Yeah, because water flows on the earth, and so it supports it, it stabilizes it. So you're going to be looking at what's next to what energetically, as well as other things. There she is. That's okay. When we're dealing with all the minor arcana, I want you to think of the minor arcana as the minor angels. These are the angels that run your day-to-day life. Okay, so think of the major arcana are the big angels that are in charge of your major life path lessons, your major lessons in consciousness and expansion. The minor arcana are your day-to-day angels. It's like, okay, how's my relationship with my kids? How's my money doing? It's a little bit of a lower vibration energetically, but it's still essential because in order to manifest anything in the physical plane, you must have all the elements. You have to have energy, you have to have thought, you have to have emotion, and you have to have the manifestation skills. So you have to have all four things in order to balance out and manifest in the physical plane. So when we're dealing again with the court cards are always about people. So when we're dealing with the Knight of Discs is the husband type man. He's patient, clever, and prosperous in material things. He's really balanced. He's the perfect guy. He's the kind of guy that every woman wants to marry. When we're dealing with the Queen of Discs is the mother, the wife card. She's grounded and stable and loving and kind and considerate, and she looks over the landscape with a state of ease and grace. When you're dealing with the Princess of Discs is the pregnant female. So if you get this card, it means that you are either pregnant or you are giving birth to something new. You are birthing something in the physical plane. So it's always so funny when this card shows up and I'll say, you know, are you pregnant, or is there somebody around you pregnant? Because again, this could be another person. And if it's a no, then I'll say, are you giving birth to something new in your life at this time? Are you pregnant with an idea? Pregnant with writing a book? Pregnant with starting a business? Like, where are you pregnant? And oftentimes they'll say, oh, I'm starting a business. Okay, so this is about being full of life and in the process of creation. If somebody has the Prince of Discs, this is the old school male. This is the kind of guy that likes to do traditional values and traditional retirement programs and do a job for 40 years and have a 401k plan and a pension, and he's somewhat resentful of spiritual types, but he's very solid and he loves traditional religious values. If you're dealing with the Knight of Swords is like the salesman. So he's super active and energetic and vibrant, and he's full of ideas, and he's amazingly smart, and but he's gregarious and fun-loving and outgoing and energetic. The Princess of Swords is a person who is kind of the superwoman complex. She'll have a tendency to take on too much. She'll overdo. She is taking on too much responsibility in her family. She sometimes forgets to take care of herself. And so she can be somewhat resentful of situations that happen around her because she is so consumed with taking care of other people that she forgets to take care of herself. The Prince of Swords is a person who's Intensely clever but unstable. He's got an elusive and elastic mind that supports various opinions, but he can slay things as fast as he creates things, and he has a tendency to use other people to get what he wants, but he likes to have the ideas, but he doesn't like to actually do the work to get the idea done. The Queen of Swords is an intuitive, intensely perceptive person, a keen observer, a subtle interpreter, an individualist. She's confident, gracious, and just. She hates bullshit more than anything else in the whole world, and she will have a tendency to unmask the truth. The Knight of Cups is the Parsifal following the Holy Grail. He's the man that is on a spiritual quest. He is searching for truth, but he's very emotional about it. This is the kind of person that wants to go to personal growth workshops, and he wants to follow gurus and go to ashrams and travel the world. And so he's a little hard to pin down. This is not the most committed male, but he's committed to his own spiritual growth. Then you've got the Princess of Cups, and the Princess of Cups is those wonderful, beautiful, super languid, gorgeous women that love beautiful things, and they love to take care of themselves and go to the spa all day. And these are the beautiful women that are oftentimes married to very wealthy men, because they kind of look at it like, hey, I'm gonna marry this man, have babies with this man, and I'll be taken care of for the rest of my life, okay? Then you've got the Prince of Cups, and the Prince of Cups, you want to think of the Marquis de Sade. So this is a person who's a megalomaniac, controlling within his own emotional realm. In the most positive sense, this card is an artist, but even artists can be very self-absorbed. They're completely riveted and focused on what they're doing at any moment, and they screen everyone and everything else out. So if you've ever been in a relationship with an artist, you know that when they're in a project, it completely consumes them, and they really don't pay attention or see other people very easily. It's hard for them to come out. So this is an artist, but it also can be a very sexually controlling person, because their emotions are very demanding for what they want. Then you've got the Queen of Cups, and the Queen of Cups is a woman who reflects the nature of the observer. She's very dreamy and tranquil and kind and imaginative and poetic, but she's sometimes thrown by all the emotions that are affecting her. So she's very much affected by her environment, and so she starts reflecting all the emotions that are around her, and sometimes she loses herself in the process. Then you've got the Knight of Wands, and the Knight of Wands is a man that is active and a starter-upper, and he likes to get things going, and he doesn't always follow through as well, but he's really good at making things happen and getting people inspired to go forward. Then you've got the Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Wands is a woman of adaptability and persistent energy and calm authority, and she's got great power, and she's very strong, and she's very dynamic, and she's like a Pele. I mean, she's a force to be reckoned with when she gets going. You have the Prince of Wands. The Prince of Wands is a person who is swift and strong and impulsive and noble and generous with a sense of humor. They're an Energizer bunny. They're very gung-ho. They've got lots of vitality. And then you've got the Princess of Wands, and the Princess of Wands is a person who is that very beautiful, sexual, sensual, flowy, fiery, passionate kind of woman that will attract men to her in lots of ways. So again, when you're dealing with the court cards, all court cards in yes, no, or maybe questions are a maybe. So whenever you see a court card, that card is a maybe card. But again, these cards represent people or archetypes that you're trying to learn or integrate or might help you in a present situation. So if you're asking a yes, no, or a maybe card and you get a court card, this card will tell you maybe a quality that you need to pay attention to. So if you get a card that you're like, ooh, you know, that's a yucky card, well, maybe you're not paying attention to the fact that there's a person in your situation that's like this card, or that you have a part of you that you don't like in this situation that's going to surface at some point. So this is about being aware of how these cards move and flow. So that's the court cards. Now, what we're going to go to from here is we're going to go to the wands. In the dynamic of energy, energy always has a way that it moves. So think of it like fire. There's lots of ways fire moves. And the first thing fire does is it ignites. It kind of catches on fire, right? So there's that spark, like striking a match. So this card, the Ace, looks like a firebrand. You could think of it looking like a match being struck. And so when a match is struck, it's like, whoosh, it's a lot of fire, it's got a lot of energy at the beginning, and it's exciting. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And so when you look at this card, the Ace of Wands always represents the fall. So if we're dealing with timing in tarot, the fall is the time when fires tend to get caught and burn really badly because the grasses are dry. So this is that time when the things catch on fire, okay? So this card is pretty simple and pretty straightforward because it's a fire club, and if you remember the Knight of Wands, he's holding that fire club, and it's that same fire club going forward with the Knight of Wands. So this is about a new energy that's being initiated, and there's an excitement with that particular energy. So from there you go to the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands is called Dominion. And so when energy starts, if you ever watch those TV shows about surviving in the wild, what happens when they strike the match? They're like, you know, they're trying to keep it going because striking the match is easy, but keeping the fire going is harder. So as soon as that fire touches anything else, for a minute you're like, oh gosh, did that catch, right? So this card is that moment where there's a conflict, like the fire has now touched the tinder, but there's a moment where the tinder isn't quite burning, so there's a conflict, like, are we burning, are we not burning, okay? So when we're dealing with energy, did you ever notice that you're real gung-ho about something, you're gonna do this thing, it's really exciting, and the moment you get excited about something energetically, what happens? People say, oh, well, you can't do that, you're not good enough, you don't have the degree, you don't have the skills, what are you thinking, right? So this represents conflict. So the Dominion is about dominance or someone dominating over you or trying to stop you in some way. So if you look at this card, it actually is two dorjes. So dorjes is a Tibetan term, if you look at these dorjes at the top, it looks like two little demon faces at the very top of each of the dorjes. And on top of the head of the dorje is a horse, which shows you that, you know, little demon people or people that are obstacles in our life can have a lot of power over us. I mean, just in one statement, they can stop you dead in your tracks. Have you ever noticed that? Just, you know, you have this idea and you're really excited about the idea, and one piece of bad news and immediately you want to back away from it and not do it. So there's this conflict. So whenever you see the Dominion card, know that there's a conflict coming in, or there's going to be a problem showing up, or somebody's going to tell you you can't do something, and there's some sort of an obstacle. Now this is where Aleister Crowley got really interesting, because not only do the major arcana represent astrological signs and planets, and then the minor arcana again represents astrological signs also, and timing, but you're also dealing with the fact that at the top of this you have the symbol of Mars, and at the bottom you have the symbol of Aries. Now Mars is the planet of war, and Aries is the god of war. Okay, so what happens when Aries, the god of war, is in conflict with Mars, the god of war? How much war do we have? We have a big war, okay? So there's a big conflict here. So you've got two big forces, each having their own agenda, pushing against each other in some way. And so there are moments where when you get a conflict, you notice that you actually get pissed too. You're like, that's not true, I can do it today. So you start pushing back. So there's two choices with this card, that you can push back and hold your ground, which will cancel the energy, but it'll still make it kind of a stalemate, or people will tend to collapse and back away. Okay, so it's like a choice. Which way are you going to handle the conflict? Now what's cool about the sequence of Aleister Crowley with these cards is that the next card actually tells you the appropriate way to be. So the next card in the sequence of energy is the Virtue card, which means when you encounter conflict, the best way is to fall back into your virtues.